Hello everyone and welcome to round 7 preview. Trade targets, burning questions, hot topics, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to cover hopefully all of that stuff for you guys this week. Thanks to everyone who's been in the chat so far. There's 55 of you at the moment. Keep the questions coming in. We'll tackle them throughout the stream as well. Happy to be streaming again. It beats editing, that's for sure. And so yeah, let me know if you guys prefer this format, because if you guys prefer live streams, we'll keep doing the live streams. It's easier to actually not have to edit. So we'll definitely cater for what you guys prefer as well. But yeah, shout out to Mark. Hi. Dual Position Podcast, The Whisperer, is in the house as well. Just watched his stream as well. Definitely check that out. Great content as always. Isaac, Sticky Nicky, Jaden, Matt, thank you all for joining, and all of you who have come as well for today. So look, we won't dilly-dally too much more. What's Aman? Yo, man, what's up, player? Mate, I'm pretty good, Davo. I'm pretty good. But didn't have a good round 6. So scored 1,078. Captain was a bit of a fail. Captain Teddy in the end. And even my trade-ins were a bit meh. I brought in Lomax. You guys would be aware that I was 50-50 between Lomax and Campbell Graham. There's like a 2-point difference between the two. Lomax just felt more like a gut feel. So that I went for him. Probably would have been better if I'd gone for some of my other candidates. I could have gone for Cook, absolutely smashed it. Could have gone for Papali'i, who did well with 85. But yeah, overall, look, it was not a great week. Back down to about 16k. But look, this is the master plan, okay? I start slow so that I end the season better, and it just looks better. Instead of starting too well, there are some content creators out there who started really well, and kudos to them, Whisperer. If you start too well, but then you start to falter, I feel like it hasn't got the same effect as if you start poor, but then you have a bit of a comeback story. So that's the play that I'm going for. No, I'm just joking. Only 31 trades left though. This is the problem. I feel like my team is not well set up, and I've been burning trades. Lots and lots of trades. A few trade outs, a few trade decisions that 50-50s have not worked out well. Mr. Katoni, we need to have a word with him as well, just for what he's done to me. Absolutely distraught with what he's done the last 2 weeks. Just seeing him tear it up, absolutely brutal. But look, not a great place to be in at the moment, but it's okay. The point spread is probably starting to creep up just a little bit more as well. But you know what? We're going to be bringing in some big guns this week. We're going to be selling some big guns, some faltering big guns, but we're going to be bringing in some big guns as well this week. No shade, Whisperer. No, I really rate your start, but come on, man. This is the play. Start poor and then end well. That's how we're going to do it. But we talked about faltering guns. Mr. James Tedesco. Look, I'm a Roosters fan. I love this guy. He's done so much for the club. Loved him for SuperCoach for ages. As you can see, his scores 2021, 2020, 2019. He's averaging 87, 95, 84. Absolute gun. You would never trade him out. But I think I'm going to trade him this week. It was the hot topic last week, right? Whether you sell Tedesco or not. I wanted to wait a week just to see how he went against the Warriors. And look, he scored 57, which was fine. But that did include a try assist. And so with Cleary doing so well, I mentioned last week that Cleary, I think I want to try to target him in the next couple of weeks, just when he drops some cash. The fact that he scored such a big score, and it looks like he's not even going to drop that much, and Teddy, the way that he's playing, to me it feels like the switch, and you've got players to enable that, like tough, really. So basically, the moves that some people were making last week, I'm just going to copy it. I feel like, yes, I might have lost, I lost 150 points, and I lost about 30k in cash on Tedesco, but at least I feel a bit more confident in that decision now as well. The real question though, forget Tedesco, all this. How many lost their multis from the Tigers win? Yeah, I bet you a lot of them did. But yeah, look, Tedesco, I'm not going to try to get into reasons as to why he's not looking good. I think it's just overall the Roosters, because they're just a bit clunky overall. Maybe they're going to ramp up towards the end of the year. Oh, Vaughn, not Vaughn, Tommy, you absolutely killed me with your comments. So I'm going to be cutting between this and the live chat as well, but don't we love the Lomax versus the Graham debate when Staggs pumps 100 against the Panthers? I know. I did not consider Staggs for a second, and he pumps out another 100, but we will be talking about Staggs. Do you actually swallow your pride? Do you bring him in? But yeah, look, overall, I think Tedesco, if you don't have to sell him, you don't have to, because the draw is still good, but I feel like I've seen enough evidence that, yes, the draw is good. Probably going to sell him, and he's probably going to bash out like 150. But he hasn't topped 100 yet this season. We've got Cleary in his third game scoring 150. So for me, think I'm just gonna pull the trigger. I'm just gonna sell him. Probably gonna sell for Cleary via Hines and get in tough as well to fund that move as well. So yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do. Teddy to Cleary, that's probably what I'm gonna do. Teddy to Taff, yeah. If you want to make funds to do the Cleary move, those are the popular combinations. So I really don't have any issues or qualms with that. So yeah, I'm not really going to spend too much more time on that one. To me, I'm going to sell Tedesco. I don't think he's a hard sell necessarily, like, he's a must sell, but he's got a break even of 124. He hasn't shown any evidence of getting to that so far this year. So I feel like the price is just going to keep coming down, and you're going to want to get in someone like Cleary this week, especially, who's going to be very heavily captained. That's my main rationale. I think the price loss is going to be, you're going to feel it quite a bit if you don't move for Cleary, say, this week. Even though it's a good matchup against the Dragons, it's an Anzac Day clash, they usually do play well in that one as well. But yeah, so actually just this good question from Defiance, who says, what do we do if we have Hines, Schneider, plus Teddy and Paps? You want Taff? Well, I mean, look, I would ask the question, should you not be looking at Cleary? So I have the exact same halves combinations actually defined. To me, I'm going to prioritize Cleary. Like, Taff is great. He's probably going to make good coin, playing it with a good draw, goal kicking as well. But Cleary is Cleary. He's just absolutely, he's a unicorn. He's actually a unicorn. He gets points from anywhere. He's an accumulator, all those buzzwords that we love in SuperCoach. He's all of those things and more. So for me, Cleary is actually the priority. So look, like, I've got the exact same halves combination. What I'm doing is probably going to be Teddy out for Taff, and then I'm going to swap Hines down. Or, Hines and Taff actually flip between the two positions directly as well, so I don't even have to do a swap there. But yeah, I'm going to actually probably do Schneider out for Cleary and then Teddy down to Taff. That's how I would look at it in terms of getting both Taff and Cleary. We'll get into some reasons and discussion about Schneider as well. I don't necessarily think Schneider is actually a massive sell, but yeah, Teddy for me is out. And I know Michael, he's in the chat, he's mentioned that he was selling Teddy and he's saying, hooray, finally bye-bye Teddy. Look, I'm not hooraying about it. I would have loved Teddy to do well, but it has to be done. So Oscar, just on this topic, what do you do if you have Moses, Schneider, Pappy and Hines? So I'll quickly just get into the Cleary discussion now. I think we've kind of made it clear that we're going to be selling Tedesco. In terms of, if you've got a different halves configuration, how you're going to look to go for someone like a Cleary or a Taff. You can pick up Taff at halfback as well. So Oscar said, what do you do if you have Moses, Schneider, Pappy and Hines? So I'm guessing you've got Pappy and Hines at your fullback spot, and you've got Moses and Schneider. So that's part of the question, isn't it? Do you take out Schneider or Moses to Nathan Cleary? I know the Whisperer in the chat earlier, and I think on his stream was saying that he would prefer to take out Moses, just because if you see just below me, I've got the Eels and the Raiders draws coming up. Now, one thing to also note is that Brad Schneider does play in round 13, so if you are conscious of that, that will mean that he does cover the first bye week. I can't quite remember if the Eels played the first bye. Someone in the chat can probably correct me. I'm going to have a quick look-see here. No, they don't play the first bye. So Moses won't play the first bye. Neither does Cleary. Schneider does. So you might be thinking, okay, maybe I'll keep Schneider for that coverage and then take out Moses instead. Now, Moses has done exceptionally well recently. I don't think it's a very easy call. Moses to Cleary, Moses is 725k now. So you're only having to pay 170k to go from Moses to Cleary. Moses does have a break even of 72. So he's probably peaked now in price. He's made 214k. The next two matches are good, Newcastle and then the Cowboys. So Moses is probably going to keep continuing to average what he is, probably around the 70. So he might not lose cash necessarily. It just feels like this week, though, is the week to pull the trigger on Cleary because he does have that 83 break even. Now with Schneider, the draw is actually quite tough for the run-in to round 13. So you could maybe see, is he going to continue to score as he's currently going? Is he actually going to keep going up in price enough to justify holding him? Now, I did a price change calculator. At his current average of around 50, 55, he would actually still make another 170 odd K. He would still has quite a lot of room to grow. And I think the cash generation is important. Even though Moses has done really well, the next two are good. Schneider's also is pretty decent. Well, Panthers not this week, but then Warriors and Bulldogs. I would be tempted to sell Moses, actually. I know it sounds a bit crazy because Moses has done so well. It's more about the fact that you can continue to get cash from Schneider. And Schneider's, Moses hasn't really shown it so far this season, but it does have sometimes a tendency to go low as well. Whereas Schneider's got a pretty solid floor. Moses obviously does have the highest ceiling. So I don't think it's an easy debate. I would maybe lean towards Moses. Moses will play over Origin, that's true. So it's only round 13 that you have to think about. Look, I don't know, maybe if you do a Schneider to Moses switch in round 14, once you've got Schneider's buy coverage, maybe that's something that you could do potentially as a play. But I think if you're, I don't know, it's a hard one. If you're really suffering for cash and you really need cash generation, maybe you do sell Moses instead for Cleary. If you've got other players in your team who you're kind of happy with making cash and you actually just want to prioritize getting points, having a Moses and Cleary combination is pretty good. So I don't think it's such a, an easy answer. I think it really is a bit team dependent. That's my overall thoughts. I think Schneider has that benefit of good cash generation, covers round 13. Moses still has the next 2 games which are pretty good. So then maybe at that point you can maybe downgrade to Schneider as well. Maybe that's another way to play it. But yeah, I think gun to my head, I'd probably maybe say sell Moses for Cleary. Doesn't sound ideal, but it just means that you can still lock in a good cheapie and cash cow in Schneider as well. But yeah, you make a good point. See, Mr. Poke Dragon says that Moses could score 150 this week against a woeful Knights. Exactly, that's the thing. It's really a decision of, I think, cash versus points for that move, because either way, you're going to want to get Cleary in. It's just whether you sacrifice Moses or Schneider. But yeah, honestly, I think we have to get him this week because of that low break even. What I've got in the graph there, just to explain that, is his scores from rounds 4, 5, 6, and the split of points between base, the scoring, the creative points, and the evasive points. And then 2021 is actually the distribution of that over the 2021 season. Now, there's not really any useful insights, I guess, to draw out of this. Obviously, he had a massive game against the Broncos, set up quite a lot of tries as well. It's just in round 6, the base went up to 34. To me, that's the biggest sign. That's gone up the last 3 weeks, which to me is the biggest indicator that he's almost back to what he was last year. He's making a lot of tackles, making a lot of runs. I mentioned last week that he was looking to take the line on in round 5, just was very close to scoring the tries, but not quite there. Now, he didn't score a try in round 6 either, but the base is up, which is, I think, the best sign there. The scoring points is not quite as much as 2021, but we can also kind of explain that with the scoring is just overall a little bit down in 2022, but it's very similar to what he scored in round 5. Now, those creative numbers of 73 is not going to obviously be something he gets every week, and the evasiveness numbers are a little bit higher as well. But to me, it's the base stats. The base stats are up, which to me is a good sign. So for me, all things point towards just getting Cleary this week. I don't want to make it too analytical or too insightful. It's a good draw with Raiders and Titans coming up. It's really only round 10 where I'm concerned with Cleary in terms of his points being slightly capped. I think all those other teams, he can still score very well. He's kind of that player who's pretty fixture proof. So for me, Cleary is the number one target for this week. I think it was Sandy earlier in the chat was saying, are there any must-haves this week? We don't like using that term must-have generally, but to me, Cleary is almost a must-have this week if you don't have him already. That's the way I'm seeing it. So I'll answer a couple of questions on people's trades on how they're looking to get Cleary, and then we'll move on to the next one. So Isaac is saying, Teddy and Coates to Cleary and enough, or Teddy, Moses and King to Cleary, Taff and IPAP. I definitely prefer the second option. I think going for Nuffs still is pretty early. Going for Nuffs, I think you're able to lock in, Teddy, Moses and King. You could say Teddy and Moses are both guns, but Teddy's not really performing that level. IPAP's a season keeper, Cleary is a season keeper, Taff is a solid money maker. I really like those 3 trades. I wouldn't be nuffing out so early. So I think I'd be opting for your second set of trades there. I know it does require a boost, but I think it's a good boost in the sense that you're getting in 2 guns in Cleary and IPAP. Jaden, you can go from Schneider to Taff and downgrade someone from Bullimore and boost to go Brayley to Cook, but they'll only leave with 2 boosts. Thoughts? I might save that question for when we discuss Damien Cook, but overall, I don't mind that. I don't mind if you want to go to Cook from Brayley. Maybe follow up in the chat later if Brayley's your starting hooker or if he's your reserve. Just let me know that, and that might probably help answer your question a little bit as well. Hi, Moses or Dylan Brown out? Or again, maybe if you could specify if it's for Cleary, because obviously I'm guessing Dylan Brown, maybe you can do it via duels. To me, I know Moses has generally outperformed Dylan Brown, but I like what Dylan Brown's doing at 5'8" as well. Him and Munster have been killing it. I really like having Dylan Brown. I'm very fortunate that I started with him. That's one thing I got right so far this year. So for me, I'd say Moses, maybe because he's Peach and Price, whereas Dylan Brown, even though the draw does get a bit tougher for the Eels, he's got that higher base, so I feel like he's able to not necessarily hold his price. He probably will dip down in price just a little bit more, but I feel like he can not fall as much because he's got such a high base and work rate. So maybe I would say Moses out if it's to go to Cleary. Cool. So we'll get to the next section. So we're not discussing Damien Cook just yet. I thought we should discuss Mr. Staggs. Tony Staggs. Let me know in the chat who sold him in round 4. Sorry, who sold him in round 5. So basically you got all of his junk scores and you missed out on his big hundreds. Let me know in the chat. I need my friends. We all need a group hug. Because Staggs is just pain. What a pain. What a pain. How could he do that to me? I was one of his biggest believers in the preseason, and I lost it's my own fault. I lost the faith. I lost the faith in Staggs. So again, similar to what I did with Cleary, I wanted to show the split of his scores from rounds 1 till 6. So it's kind of just trying to maybe drive a bit of an insight as to why he did so well in the last 2 weeks compared to the first 4 weeks. The base is up from the first 3 weeks, which is probably an indicator that he's just either looking for work a bit more or they're getting the ball to him earlier. So I think it kind of matches up to the eye test. You'd probably generally say that the last few weeks, it seems like they're making more of an effort to get in the ball. So that's one reason. He's obviously scored a couple of tries in the last 2 weeks, so that's adding 17 to his score. Would have been nice if he scored that try that didn't bomb over. I can't remember what game it was. Look, all Staggs-related memories are pushed out of my mind, so I can't remember what game it was that he bombed that try. But look, the actual evasiveness numbers, yes, they're exceptionally high, but 26 last week, he was getting 18, 12 in earlier weeks, so it's not like that's gone up massively, like it's doubled, but it's not such a massive increase. It's the try assisting, it's really come in, that wasn't there at all. I think that's just the fact that he's getting those fens. Momorowski, I mentioned last week, he's probably still got a Tony Staggs handprint on his face, the amount of fens that he got off on him. And even Targo, he did really well up against Targo. So I think maybe with Staggs, it's a bit of a matchup thing, the actual centre that he's opposing. Now he's coming up against the Bulldogs this week. So their left centre is, I want to say, Shoop. Someone can correct me. I believe it's Shoop who's the left centre. I think he could do well this week. And look, is he a buy? The trend that he's shown so far is he does bad against the good opponents and he does good against the hard opponents, which I don't understand. I don't quite understand why he does that. But I would say, look, rounds 8 and 9, it's the Sharks and the Rabbitohs. They're pretty hard opponents, you'd say. Then it's the Sea Eagles. So again, I think Tom might be back by that week. So maybe then it's another harder opponent. Maybe he's a buy. Look, I would like to think that I'm, mature enough to be open to buying him, even though I sold him. He's got a minus 46 break even, so he will go up in price. And it's just the thing that we know that he can give you these 35, 40 scores. We felt them. We felt those scores. I'm just afraid that if you went there again, 510k, so you're paying more than what you sold him for. You're paying like 140k extra than what you sold him at if you sold him in round 4. And if he gives you another 35, he's going to go back down in price again. Oh my goodness, I don't know. It's tough. Look, I'm not going there because center wing is not my priority at the moment. I did a center wing trade last week to get in Lomax, so I'm glad I don't have to think about it. Fire in your Staggs related questions if you do have any, because I think we'll use this opportunity to discuss. Thank you to Darren, Tom, Shock, Sticky Nicky, Jackson, Gazaraki. You're all my friends that you all sold Staggs, so we have a nice big family here, which I like to see. Angus will throw you into that as well. You sold for Cooler, and yeah, Cooler wasn't even named. So just on Cooler quickly while we're on that. So it's not ideal. I brought him in last week as well, but he's not named at all in the 17. Apparently, though, the turnaround of him from his HIA and a bit of a knee issue, I want to say, I'll correct that on Twitter if I do find that updated information. But apparently the turnaround was quite short for him to make a recovery. So I'm hopeful that Cooler gets back into the team next week. So fingers crossed for that one, because if not, that would have been a really bad trade-in and he would have essentially just turned into enough. Let's see. Tom, so this means that Staggs gets 20 this week. Yep, bad against bad opponents and good against the gun teams. Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. Like, I don't think that that's a trend that's actually going to continue. Like, it's only a 6-game sample size, so it's not a lot to read into. For me, Staggs is a decent buy if you are looking for a kind of center wing around that price range, because he's shown that upside and at the very least, he'll be a moneymaker. Minus 46 break even. So I think I'm not going to go there because I've already addressed my center wing. It might be too painful to go back as well. But even if I could buy a center wing, I think I'd still do what I did last week, and I probably would still go for like a Lomax or a Campbell Graham instead of Staggs. I know they don't seemingly have the upside that Staggs has shown at the moment. It's just, for me, it's my peace of mind. Like, Lomax got 53 last week, kicked the field goal but didn't do much else, and I was like, whatever, 53 points, just don't give me junk scores every week, and that I'll take it, okay? I'll take it. So for me, Staggs, I'm not going to buy personally. I do think he's an okay buy, but just be aware, obviously, that there is some volatility. But look, he's looked really good the last couple of weeks as well. Okay, so next up. So we're going to talk about Fifita. So I haven't actually seen any questions about Fifita at the moment. So maybe I shouldn't have put together such a detailed thing on Fifita. But look, Fifita is similar. I know a couple of people, shout out to Costa from Searching for Corey Parker. He sold both Staggs and Fifita. Now that is brutal. I'm at least happy that I held Fifita. I can count that as a bit of a small victory for myself. Jaden, just to answer your question, who would you bring in first, Staggs or Lolo? Again, team dependent. If you really need to go and fill in your center wing, then I would obviously say Staggs. If you need to plug a gap in your front row forward, then I'll say Lolo. It's hard to say without seeing your team, but like Lolo is not going to give you 30s. He's going to give you 50s and 60s minimum. So I kind of like that guarantee. So it's really team dependent. It's hard to answer that. Like, the two completely different positions. Oscar, you sold both as well. Isaac, you sold Fifita 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so I think we'll look at a similar analysis with Fifita because he's basically gone back up to his price that he was at the beginning of the year. I think he's only about 14k shy of it. He's got a break-even of 8, so he will make money this week, and also has a good matchup against the Cowboys, so is even a decent like vice-captain option. Now, the games are mixed, Panthers and then Roosters, and then it's the Dragons, Sharks, and then Broncos. So, out of the next 6, you'd say that probably 3 of them are pretty good with the Cowboys, Dragons, and Broncos. 2 are okay, Roosters, Sharks, and then obviously 1 is very tough in the Panthers. So, I think at that price, it's hard to say, is he an outright buy? But he's shown the last 2 weeks what we kind of saw from 2021, and it's kind of coincided with Jaden Campbell not being in the team. Now, I think Jaden Campbell was named in the extended reserves, so he could be getting close to fitness. So maybe even that could put me off because Campbell was killing him, and Famil was actually the one who was benefiting. Now that Campbell's not there, they just give Fifita the ball earlier, and you can see that he's actually getting a bit more involved. Like, the base stat numbers have increased from the first 2 weeks. It was getting 34 than 30, but in the last 4, 44, 43, 48, 45. That's a lot better base numbers from Fifita. And we know that he usually racks up at least like 2 or 3 tackle breaks a game, and maybe a couple of offloads as well. So, chuck those in, and his floor is probably around 55-60, which is like a floor of 55-60 is great. So yeah, look, to me, I think he's an okay buy, but there's a lot of, you're paying quite a bit of money. Like, I think if you haven't, say, got like a Papali'i feels safer than Fifita, because Fifita scores have been bumped up a lot by the tries. Like, if I look at rounds 5 and 6, you take away those 2 tries and you take away, say, the line breaks that are associated with them, so minus 27 points, you're looking at, say, what did he score in round 5? He scored like 105, I think it was. So you're looking at around an 80. And then last week he would have scored around 97, which, look, I say that actually out loud. Take away the tries and he's still getting you 80 or 90. That's a really, really good sign actually as well. So, yeah. I think he's a buy if you can afford it. I just feel like he won't be as heavily bought this week because people are going for a Cleary. But if you're selling, I think I saw someone on Twitter, they were selling Tedesco, and they were somehow able to fund both Cleary and Fifita, which to me is ridiculous. Like, that's an insane set of trades that you can do. So I think he's a good buy, but I don't think he's a priority. Like, I would prioritize Cleary over Fifita if you want to spend your money this week, and potentially even Papali'i, just because he's a little bit safer, and also he has that added benefit of being dual flexible as well. And Fifita also will go away for Origin, so that's something, if you're looking at a 50-50 between, say, Fifita and Papali'i, then maybe I'll just slightly lean towards Papali'i. Jade, no one owns Fifita and wants to hear about him. Oh, well, I mean, he's pretty heavily bought, so I wanted to put something together on Fifita just because he did pretty well the last couple of weeks as well. Before I get on to the next part with Damien Cook, I'll quickly answer some questions as well. So I'll just quickly scroll up. So, Oscar, Mulatalo thoughts. So yeah, I haven't really discussed Mulatalo. I mean, last week we went in a bit more detail into the Sharks. The thing with Mulatalo is that his base is really low, and that always kind of concerned me. The Sharks do have a pretty good draw coming up, but he also does have, like, it's just a low base, and he's also very expensive now. I think it's like 630k. So for me, I feel like you're paying top dollar, and I just don't know if those scores are sustainable. Like, I'm looking at it, the base last 3 weeks is actually a bit up than I thought. 32, 26, and then 35. He did score 104 against Newcastle in round 4 without a try as well. I just don't know if that's sustainable. It feels like the numbers are really boosted up by a lot of tries as well. But if you're looking to pay top dollar in centre wing, 630k, I'd get him this week because obviously he's got a negative break even, so he's going to make some money. Then he's got the Broncos, the Warriors, Raiders, and Titans. So those next 4 are really good. So I feel like if you've got like a feeling about going with Mulatalo, this week is the week to go for it. He's not my favorite personally, just because the price is pretty expensive at 630k. But look, yeah, could be an option. Did I trade in Lomax for the entertainment only? Well, I wanted to hope to get some points. I mean, look what he did to Frizzell. I was like, why are you doing that? It was pretty dumb move overall. No, just wanted to lock in some points in my centre wing because I was really well struggling. Well, elsewhere my team's also been struggling as well. James, is it finally time to bring McInnes in? So yeah, we will also discuss McInnes. So McInnes does have a break even of about 38. So it's probably the time where he's he's bottomed out in price. I'm actually thinking of getting in McInnes next week. I probably can't fit him in with my trades this week, but next week I'm definitely looking at McInnes. I think the injury to Hamlin-Uele probably means that when Finucane comes back in, because he's not named this week due to failing a HRA, I'd expect Finucane to come back in at prop, and then McInnes stays in his lock spot. So once he's locked into a starting spot, so I don't necessarily think he's a must trade this week because the break even's 38. He's not going to change massively in price. And say, for example, if you're looking to upgrade, say like Chris Randall's got a pretty low break even. I believe it's 2. So Randall will still have another price rise in him. Therefore, I feel like you can maybe wait a week on doing like a Randall upgrade. And obviously, if you've got other second row forwards, maybe like a Fermor's got a break in of 80, so he could be a sell as well. Maybe to McInnes. I don't think it's necessarily one that you need to rush into though, just because McInnes, his break even is not super low, and it only would be like his first game, I think, starting first or second game. So I feel like it's not an immediate one, but I'm definitely eyeing up McInnes, and he could be coming in for me actually next week. Yeah, Vaughan saying you missed the boat on Mulatalo potentially. Okay, so I won't delve too much into Cook. I think I kind of went into this a bit last week about, should you go for Harry Grant or go for Cook? I kind of mentioned that if you had neither, I'd maybe opt for Cook, just because he was a bit cheaper, had the better draw, and he delivered in spades last week. So just looking at his numbers, say for so far in 2022, like 2019 is kind of the last that we saw Cook averaging this well at 76. The base was a bit down it was down in 2021. It's up again to about 49. It's really the scoring. Obviously, he scored a hat-trick, so the hat-trick definitely bumps up the scoring points. The evasive numbers are up as well, mainly because I think he's running the ball more, so he's getting more line breaks and tackle breaks and things like that. The creative numbers are actually down, so he's not actually being involved in terms of getting those try assists and things like that. So that's even something that you could potentially see increase as well. And look, the draw for the Rabbitohs, we keep going on about it, it's pretty insane. So yeah, I like Cook as a buy. He is cheaper than Grant, 669k. Grant is 705k. Like, if you ask me overall for the season, I prefer Grant just because I think he's the number one option. But right now, I think that Cook is probably, at the moment, in the short term at least, a better buy. He just has the better draw overall as well. Okay, so there's a few questions about Mann and Burton. No need to repeat all the time. I'll get to that one. You're trading Kurt Mann and Burton. You got 1.2 mil in the bank. Who should you get? Well, if you've got Burton on your halfback, get Cleary, and then with the spare money, maybe Hastings. You could do that. You could potentially do that as well. And Jaden, you said you have Brayley starting and Randall on the bench. The other option could be Brayley to McInnes with his starting role now with no boost. Yeah, I think I would be okay using a boost to get to Cook. I feel like him and Grant look at the moment pretty clear, like number 1 and 2. So I would go with the Cook option, and I think maybe McInnes you can work out a way to get it next week instead. But yeah, so that would be my advice if you are looking to upgrade Brayley, who's your starting hooker. Sorry. Just putting Jackson in timeout because he's spamming too much. So don't spam, otherwise I'll put you in timeout. I have the ability to do that. Don't worry. So all good. All right, but that's my spiel on Cook. So I'll quickly touch on some of the cash cows and the cheapies. I know a few people have asked also about some sell options. We will get to those as well. But I thought we'll look at some cheapies. These are potentially some buys that I think people are looking at as well. And just to answer your question, Alex Rist, is Tedesco a sell for Taff? I'm looking at doing that this week. I think that's the main way that people are going to fund the Cleary upgrade. So yeah, for me, I would be doing that. Yeah. So in terms of cash cows, Taff. Look, he's the number one. I think he's number 2 most bought player, maybe number 1 but most bought player. Got a break even of -33, averaging 51. Look, the minutes, don't pay attention to that. He'll get quite a few games goal kicking now with Latrell still being out. So look, Taff, I said it last week. I think I was happy to give him the week because he wasn't going to go up in price last week. This is the week he's going to go up in price. I did run some numbers actually in terms of what he might actually go up to in terms of value. So I've just quickly jumped onto NRL SuperCoach Stats. So we've got Blake Taff. Where are you at? So let's say Taff averages say 45. So he scored 62 last week. The previous score before that was 39. So just taking a score around the middle, let's just say he averages 45. If he averages 45, he's currently at 210k. In 6 weeks, he would make 200k. So he's looking at pretty decent cash cow. Now, he might not be there for the full 6 weeks, depending on Latrell's injury, but then Latrell, you'd expect when he's back, would be in the origin mix as well. So Taff is probably locked into his role for a while. So I do think he's a pretty safe cash cow to go for. Don't think there's too much really debate about, is he a good one or not. I think there's enough cash generation there. There's goal kicking. I think there's enough benefits for sure. And Schneider. So Schneider's an interesting one because, look, he's being heavily sold, which is, it's for Cleary. That's the reason why. But we touched on it earlier. I think he's a very, very good cash cow because of the low break even still. He's got a very healthy average. He's got a really good work rate and goal kicking. He's still going to be a great cash cow. Like if I toy with Schneider, he's got 372k price tag. Let's say he averages 56. At his current price of 372k, in 6 weeks, he'll still make 150k. So he's still got a lot of money left to make in him. But if you think about it, if you do Schneider down to Taff and then fund, say, like a Moses up to Cleary, Taff and Schneider, like Taff is probably going to make just a little bit more money than Schneider over the next few weeks. So it feels a bit sideways, but that extra money that you're generating from that trade this week, that lets you go from Moses to Cleary, I think makes it worth it. I wouldn't say that, Schneider is an obvious sell. No way. I think he's a good hold if you can. But if he's your only avenue to be able to get to Cleary, then I think it's okay. Because I still think there'll be enough money generated from Taff to make it worthwhile. Holy moly, what's going on here? Tom Jones, $10, boy, mate. Well, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. And Joshua, $8, meow, meow, meow. Mate, thank you so much, guys. A bit rattled by the donations. Appreciate it. No need for donations. We'll try to answer questions as much as we can. But no, really, really appreciate that, guys. Thanks so much. Jane is ready to mute this guy. So I think a few guys are still talking about the guy we muted from earlier. Yeah, so that's my general thoughts on the whole Schneider-Taff thing. I think Schneider's, I would like to hold him, but I think it's still enough benefits to sell for Taff to get the upgrades to Cleary. So Rust and Mouse, should you use a trade boost and get Cleary for Schneider, or should I focus on moving Fermor or Josh King along? So I'll keep that question in mind because the next section we are going to be discussing some of the more sell options like Fermor and Josh King. So maybe hold that thought, and maybe if I get to that, when I get to that section, maybe re-ask that question and we can discuss that a little bit more because I think that is a good question. But look, if you can get Cleary to Schneider, my thoughts are that's a great upgrade. That would be my inkling. but we'll discuss for more and King and Josh King in just a little bit as well. Let's just answer a few more questions. I'm having fun answering your questions as well. Lolo and McInnes or Papali'i? Ooh. Isaac, who's the second one though? Lolo and McInnes or Papali'i, and who else? Because that's going to, I really like a Lolo McInnes combination. It sounds pretty good. Jackson, Teddy and Moses to either Cleary and Hines plus 20k in the bank, or Cleary and Taff plus 500k in the bank. Oof. Teddy and Moses to Cleary and Hines to me sounds awesome. So I would go the first option because I think Cleary and Hines are going to be like if you think about your fullbacks and your halfbacks, I would say Cleary and Hines are going to be in the top 4 combined for those positions. You're probably going to have Pappenhausen, Cleary, Hines, and maybe Turbo when he's back to full fitness. And so yeah, they're going to be like the 4 I think of. So I would go with the first option. Shout out to James. Glad I can support you in some way now. Keep up the work. Love tuning in each week, mate. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate the support happening. This is a bit of a shock, actually. If I'm in all honesty, definitely don't do this to make money or anything. But guys, this is really, really appreciated. But absolutely no need to do it. I'm happy to be here. This is for fun. I've got a full-time job, but this is for fun, and I'm happy to even though my team's not doing so well, if I can offer some decent advice, then I'm happy enough with that. Carrot, who should I use to get to Cleary, Moses or Hines? Definitely Moses. Hines, as I just mentioned, I think is a top 4 candidate combined for halfback and fullback. I'd be keeping Hines, so I'd be selling Moses out of that. And James, Cam McInnes or Angus? Angus, that's interesting. So Angus is starting again this week. He's basically bottomed out in price. I think he's got a pretty, relatively low break even. It's not super low, but it's one that he can achieve. I think it's around 50. Now, he's been averaging 51. He only got 49 last week in 80 minutes as well. Does have the draw, but he will play Origin, and so I feel like you're not going to get him in that little period of time as well. Whereas McInnes is 472k. He probably has more potential for cash generation, and also I like the fact he's dual flexible. So I'd maybe go with McInnes. The Gazaraki, don't tell us what to do on mine. Gosh, mate, this is insane, guys. What is going on here? What is going on? Well, I hope I'm not telling you guys what to do, but no, Gazraki, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Holy moly, it started raining a lot outside. Hopefully you guys don't hear that too bad. It's gotten really windy as well, actually. Hopefully, oh god, the last thing I want was my electricity to get cut out. Oh yeah, I had a quick look at the radar. There's a big storm coming from the west, and it's going all the way through Sydney. Anyway, off topic. Back to the cash cows. So the other ones I've got here, I've got Jones, Lukey, Swali, Corey Pay, and Tamari Martin. Now look, Tamari Martin and Pay, I'm not going to advocate as buys. I just wanted to flag them here in that Corey Pay is starting, and there's no Jake Turpin, so might mean some decent minutes for Pay. Corey Pax, is it? I got called out for this earlier in the season for pronouncing it wrong. Corey Pax, let's just call it Corey Pax. He is playing his 3rd game this week, but it's a break even of 33, so I don't see much money generation there. So if you thought about him, maybe I wouldn't consider going there. Now Jones is a decent cash cow. He's got a break even of 1, so he will make some money. He's averaging 43 at the moment. Now, at that price tag, I don't think he was going to be making that much coin. So he scored 50 last week. If I take his average of 43, he'll in the next 6 weeks he'll make 100k. So he'll kind of steadily make some money, but maybe there's a risk with Fitzgibbon coming back. So to me, the fact that if he continues to average around 43, 45, he's not going to be a mass money maker. So for me, Jones is a bit of a meh buy. So I'm not necessarily going there unless he's a bit of a downgrade for you to kind of facilitate and fund other moves. Now Suwali at 260k, look, a pretty disappointing start with only 26 points in the first round that he played. But the fact that the Roosters have got a good draw, I'm thinking about bringing in Suwali this week purely to fund other moves. Even though I'm selling Tedesco, I think it's still good to, if I can, get a piece of the Roosters backline. Playing on the wing is great for Suwali as well. Now, you don't have to go this week because he's only going to be playing his 2nd game. But I'd prefer Suwali to Brodie Jones, I think, as a buy. If you are looking for this week to just as a downgrade. Brodie Jones will obviously make the money this week, that Suwali won't. But I think longer term, I'd prefer Suwali. And I think he is a number 1 winger choice as well. So yeah, for me, Suwali over Brodie Jones. Now, Lukey. So a few people have thought about Lukey and asked about Lukey. He's got a minus 12 break even, scored really well last week, scoring a try. I think it was his first game playing 80 minutes, and he scored 57 points in base. Now, I owned Lukey for the beginning of the season, and look, it was a bit hard with the minutes and things like that as well. Like Peyton was just kind of rotating and everything like that. So for me, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I'd be going there this week just because I'm not quite certain if he's going to be rotated or not from the starting pack to the bench again. So I wouldn't quite go back there at the moment, but maybe as a downgrade, but I prefer to go with something like a Suwali, I think, as a downgrade option. Now, in terms of the sells, sorry. I think someone just messaged. I think someone's calling out for my name. I think the weather just got really, really bad outside. If any of you guys are in Sydney, you might have noticed that there's a massive storm that's just come through. So I'm hoping it keeps my internet in check. But if the steam drops out, that's the reason why. Holy moly, what is going on, guys? What? Joshua Hewitt, $31. Stop it. What is that for? What is going on here? Mate, guys, this is actually boggling me at the moment. No, thank you so much. And Davo, $10. You guys don't stop. Oh, what's going on here? Thanks for answering Jax Perry's question. Love your work. Got 1.2 million in the bank for a label on your poems. Oh, the poems. I think I need to give you guys a poem at some point during the stream, just because of all what's been going on at the moment. So I'll try to think of a poem in the stream, off the cuff, impromptu. But yeah, in terms of the sell, so we'll get on to some sell candidates now as well. So Josh King for more Coates and Kickout, a few of the more sold players from this week. Now, Josh King is not a massive sell candidate just because he's got a break even of 49, so he can definitely still hit that or at least get close to it. But if he's your downgrade to say, or your upgrade, so some replacements that I've mentioned there, like a Lolo or a Papali'i, I really like those as upgrades. Potentially, if you can, via duels, go down to a Jones, although maybe even better would be going to a Suwali or a Lukey. Could be an option to downgrade and fund moves. He won't cover round 13, so that's something I've also added there. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but look, if he plays round 13, that's probably a decent option. But yeah, for me, he's not going to be sold this week. Ideally, I would sell him over Beau Fermor instead. I think Fermor longer term is who I'd rather have. For me, my own team, I probably have to sell Fermor instead, just because I don't have the duels to make it work to sell Josh King. But yeah, he probably is coming close to peaking in price. He probably has already peaked in price, in all honesty. But a 49 break even isn't crazy high. So I do think that he's not a must sell this week. And look, he's got the Warriors this week. I know he's a forward, so it doesn't matter. But he's been named at lock this week. When he was playing at lock, he was actually getting some attacking stats as well. So yeah, no, Josh King I still think is an okay hold for this week. But if he's your downgrade or upgrade, then I think that's perfectly fine. Beau Fermor was tricky. I do think that he is a good option longer term, but it seems like he's gotten killed the past couple of weeks with Fifita kind of coming back a bit more into relevance. Now, maybe if Jaden Campbell is coming back soon, maybe the Fermor does actually continue to do well. I like the fact that he's second row forward and centre wing. He's definitely someone I would like to keep in your centre wing ideally. You know, there's a few options though that you can move him onto. Like a break even of 80 is not, again, super high, but he probably has maybe just peaked in cash. Oh, sorry guys, one sec. Oh, sorry. Well, that was funny. I'm back. Sorry, no, my dog is scared, apparently, of the storm outside. So, I was being called saying that, oh, can you look after him? He's scared. I said, I'm in the middle of a stream. Everyone needs to know about SuperCoach instead. He can handle the storm for a little bit. Guys, I'm back. I'm back. So, alrighty. So, let's see a few more questions. So you're looking at getting Cody in, who's dropped to 200k. Look, Cody's still got 102 break even. I don't even know if I'd be considering Cody. this week. For me, he's not doing it. I'd rather have Munster or Dylan Brown. Or maybe even a Hastings. I don't know. Maybe that's sacrilege to say that. But no, I'm still not looking at Cody. Okay. Cameron, hey mate, just tuned in. I'll go back to the start and watch the whole show. So thanks for the show again when you get to the end. No, thanks so much, Cameron. Gazaraki, imagine how much you could make on OF with this fan base. Not something that I've ever entertained, but maybe we'll think about it. No, we won't. Glad you sold Coates this week, Jai. Yeah, so we'll get on to Coates as well. So just to quickly wrap up the King and Fermor discussion, I know someone did mention about these two. Apologies, I'm trying to scroll up for your question, but if you want to repost it, that'd be good. Oh yeah, that's right. You were asking about using a trade boost to get Cleary for Schneider or focus on moving on Fermor or Josh King. I don't think Josh King or Fermor necessarily are must-sells, so I think getting Cleary in is probably more of the priority, so I'd probably do that instead. So hopefully that answers your question as well. James, you deserve all this, mate. No way without you I'd enjoy SuperCoach as much as I do now or understand it, mate. Honestly, like, I really appreciate all the support, guys. Like I've done this for like a year now. Like it's so good to kind of have a bit of a community now on Twitter and on YouTube, and that you guys enjoy my stuff, even though I'm not the best SuperCoach player by any means. The fact that you guys tune in, you write nice comments, happy to answer questions as well. That's all I need. You know, for me, this is a fun hobby. So yeah, really appreciate it. And yes, guys, I'm all good. Yes, it was the dog. My dog's old. He doesn't like storms, so apparently he was a bit scared. And so someone was calling me. I was like, oh, let me just run and see what's happening, and I'll get back to the stream in a little bit. And my dog's just sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and he's like, why are you not here helping me? And I was like, look, I'm streaming, mate. I'm streaming. I can't leave it. I don't let the dog doesn't normally come upstairs though. Hence why it's okay. Someone else is looking after him. It's okay. I didn't leave him on his own. The dog's okay. He's with other people. It's all good. He's just not with me at the moment. Dog reveal. Yeah, you know what? Why don't I try get the dog in with a poem? How about that? I'll make a promise for you guys, because you guys have been ridiculous this stream. Like, the support is insane. I will do a poem. I'll do a poem tonight. Okay, you know what? I'm doing it. Stuff it. I don't know. I love that we've gone off tangent. I'm going to call this player to poem. So I'm going to give you some options. Fifita, Cleary. I've done Staggs so many times, but I'll still add Staggs. What's another player this week? Or another player that's burnt me? I don't know. Hiku? Nah, let's put Tedesco. How about that? Alright. This is a first ever on stream. I put up a poll. Fifita, Cleary, Staggs, and Tedesco. Pick one of those players, and I will do a poem by tonight. Okay? I'll do it half an hour after the stream ends. I'll do a poem about them, and I'll have my dog in it. Okay? That's just for all your support, guys. I know some of you might be like, why the hell is this guy doing a poem with his dog? Look, this is what it is. This is the community that we've got here. Poems, dogs, SuperCoach. I love it. Absolutely love it. Sticky Nicky. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Man, choosing the SC boys over your dog. Massive respect. No, look, he's with other people. I appreciate all of you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Paul, the Stormline sellers nuts coming through Sydney. Yeah, it was insane. Anyway, back on. Let's go back on target. Coates. We need to talk about Xavier Coates. Is he a sell? Is he a hold? The draw's decent. Warriors, Knights, Dragons, and then Panthers. Break-even's not ideal though. 103. The problem with him is that he's gone like low the past couple of weeks, so he's going to drop a bit in cash. But I feel like if you've got him, he's not like, surely he's not your biggest problem. Like, I'd be trying to do things like getting Cleary in instead of selling Coates. Although I imagine a lot of people are selling Coates to sell like a Suwali to help fund that move, which in that case I guess makes a bit more sense. But yeah, this is kind of the highs and lows of Coates. I feel like if you have Coates, my mentality when I pick someone like him is that you just kind of have to try keep for the long term and just ride the roller coaster. Because we saw the first few rounds, he was doing really well. And he's just not scored the tries the past couple of weeks. And he just doesn't have the base to not give like good scores. He just throws up junk scores. So for me, if he's funding, Cleary upgrades, if it's something to facilitate Cleary, I'd be like, yeah, okay, just do it. Unless it's insane, like selling Hines, I wouldn't be doing something like that. Something like Coates, though, I think I can manage that, or I can handle that. But overall, I think he's probably not going to be your biggest problem in teams. So I think Coates is probably, for me, I'd probably try to hold, but I can understand the motivation to sell. And Kickout, I think it's a similar thing. Kickout is one of those guys we highlighted previously. He's quite heavily sold. He's a bit of a roller coaster. Now, he's got a break even to 95. The thing with Kickout, though, is that at his price, I do feel like there's a lot of good options around him. You know, you can move to Lolo. You can maybe get a McInnes, maybe even an Angus Crichton, maybe upgrade to someone like Fifita, maybe even Hamoli or Kwatu, who did really well last week. He does cover round 13, though. So Kickout is one of those ones, it's tricky. If you really want to maximize hard on round 13, which I haven't really done specifically anything around Origin round 13. I'm thinking of doing that maybe this week or next week, just to kind of give some extra thoughts on that instead of just kind of, you know, more generally speaking around it. But yeah, for me, round 13, I tried to focus on it last year and it just didn't really pay off. Like, you just end up burning trades or settling with inferior players just to get like an extra body, when really you want to focus on the quality. You want to focus on the guys who you think in that week are going to be the big scorers. So you want to look at who's got the best matchup in that week. Is there a player in that team that I can target, who I can keep for the rest of the season? That's kind of the better way of approaching it. I was going into the buy rounds trying to get 27, 28 players, and it just, across both weeks, I should say, it just wasn't working for me. So I wouldn't let that whole round 13 factor play into it too much. Kickout probably would be a good option in that week. So you could include Kickout in that kind of maybe your better options. But for me, yeah, I personally don't ever like going for someone like Kickout. I went with Isaiah Yeo instead when everyone was selling Angus Crichton. And I've been really happy with Isaiah Yeo. He did well last week. He's averaging 66. He's doing really solid. And so for me, that's my kind of option I'd rather have. If you've got Kickout as one of your top 2 second row forwards, I'd probably try to upgrade. If he's kind of your 3rd or 4th, I think he's someone you can still probably hold. But yeah, overall, I don't really like Kickout that much. I can see someone saying Kickout for Murray. Murray is pretty expensive now. I think he's got a pretty high break even as well. What is it? He's got an 89 break even. So he can very easily match that. He's versing the Tigers this week. He is 714k, but I do like that Murray's probably a gun that you can lock in for the rest of the season. So yeah, I do like that move. Carrot Nibblers, great name. Kickout for Murray. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. We'll get onto a few more questions though, just before we get to the next section. I understand we have been streaming for a while as well, so I do want to make sure I still get through all the stuff, but I want to make sure I get your questions as well. Isaac, I could go Coates to Lolo this week and King to McInnes next week, or King straight to Papali'i this week. I'd be tempted by King to Papali'i. You're locking in a season keeper that way, and even though Coates is not going to be holding his value as well as, say, a King will, I prefer Papali'i out of all those trade-ins. So I would just lock in Papali'i. I think you've got him and you don't have to worry about him for the rest of the season, barring injury. Your dog poll has to include Mitchell Pearce. Mitchell Pearce is not going anywhere near a poll with my dog, no way. Okay, let's look at these poll results. Was it Cleary who won? I'm going to end the poll. This is the first time I've done a poll, so I'm not sure how I get the results. Oh yeah, okay. Cleary's 48. Yeah, okay. Cleary won the poem. Okay, Cleary's getting a poem with my dog, apparently. Okay, cool. We'll do that after the stream. Paul, Kicks will do a Staggs and get over 100 plus. You wouldn't be surprised. That's the thing. Kickout is that kind of player. He's capable of getting that. So yeah, it's kind of your whole appetite with points. I have Isaiah Yeo. He locks in 60 to 65 a week, and I take that. But yeah, if you've got Kickout, look, he can do well. Raiders at home, then Titans. He's kind of he's rocks and diamonds. You kind of just have to just ride through the roller coaster if you're willing to hold him. All right, next section. So I won't take too long on this part. I know someone on Twitter asked this question, so I thought it'd be good to discuss it a little bit. Just quickly touching on Jackson Hastings. I think Hastings is a decent upgrade from Lachlan Ilias price range, just because it looks like Hastings is probably going to continue to goal kick, and he's got an okay base of around 30. And if he goal kicks, look, he might add 8 points to his score if you think that the Tigers are going to score at least 2 tries a game. Now, if he's, say, averaging 40 as a floor, if he is goal kicking, for that matter. So I'll quickly just run this through the price calculator. So if I say he's going to score 40 as an average, he'll still go up to about 440k. So look, he won't be a big money maker. He'll only make about 50k, but that's assuming like a base case, just that like an absolute floor. He has got a decent draw with, after the Rabbitohs, it's the Dragons, Manly, Cowboys, Bulldogs. Do you trust the Tigers to turn it around? Look, I think he's a better option than Ilias. At a 52 projected average, I think he'll make about 117k. Ilias is Ilias has peaked already. Like, I definitely want to try to upgrade Ilias sometime soon if I can. So yeah, I don't mind Hastings as a trade in either this week. Hassan, thanks for telling us about the incoming storm. Just brought the washing in. I'm glad that my meteorology expertise is helping others not have to get their clothes dirty. But yeah, that was an insane storm. It's much better now, which is good. It just came in flying though. So yeah, anyone in Sydney would probably feel that storm coming. If you're I'm a bit more on the west, so if you're in the east, you might just be copping it just about now. So what do you think about selling Brayley for Grant and keeping Martin? Who's a Martin? Who's that hooker? Is that Liam Martin? I don't mind holding Liam Martin. He's done pretty well the last couple of weeks as well. Okay, so what I'll do, guys, because I know the stream's going on for quite a while, I will go through my stuff a bit more quicker, and then at the end, I'll try to do just a dedicated Q&A. How about that? Just so it kind of doesn't disrupt the flow then as much. So keep the questions coming in. You guys can answer amongst yourselves as always, but I'll try to go through my own stuff in a little bit quicker, and then we will answer questions at a dedicated section at the end. We'll do that. Now, quickly, just looking at front row forwards. So Papali and Haas are the two standout front row forwards. Clemmer, I know someone earlier in the chat did talk about Clemmer. Does have a low break even, and he had a massive score last week as well. I'm just not sure if I'd be fully confident in him maintaining that. I'd much rather prefer just going with Haas, Papali, and Taumalolo. I think Taumalolo is a standout, and the reason I've got Josh King there is because if you're selling Josh King and you're upgrading, you're likely going for one of these four. I think Taumalolo for the price is a big saving on Papali'i. He is averaging about 12 points less, but for 12 points less, you're getting an extra 100 and 60k. It's a pretty big discount, and Taumalolo's minutes have increased in the last few weeks, and he's looking better as well. So I really like the King to Taumalolo move. If anyone's trying to bring in Taumalolo this week, when I get to my trade plans, Taumalolo will definitely feature, not this week, but potentially next week as well. I'll quickly look at the top 10 trade ins and outs, although I've kind of already discussed most of these guys, so I don't think I need to really delve too much deeper into them. So top trade outs, we've already discussed, we've discussed the top 8. Like Whiten and Dearden, I never really was that fancy with, or I didn't really fancy them that much. Dearden's probably peaked in price, so if you had him, sell him and cash out, maybe for a Cleary, and probably similar with Jack White, and he's made 74k for you. In terms of the top trade ins, now we've talked about Taff, Cleary, and Staggs. Haven't spoken about Munster. 679k, sorry. He is probably the best 5'8" to go for. He just has this thing where he does well against the big teams and doesn't do as well against the weaker teams. So shout out to SC Whisperer. He did point this out. And look, we always know that Munster is a big game player. But if you look at his scores this season, 74 against Rabbitohs, 121 against the Parramatta, and then 33 against the Bulldogs, 96 against the Sharks, 84 against the Raiders. So he's done better against the bigger teams. Now, it's only 5-game sample size. Does have the Warriors this week, and then Newcastle, and then the Dragons. Look, I don't really think he necessarily will do worse against the weaker teams. I don't really think that's a sustainable trend. You'd expect him to do well against the weaker teams. But at 679k, it is a bit pricey. And I feel like, unless you've already got Cleary, I'd be just trying to spend that money up for Cleary. Unless you're upgrading someone like an Ilias at 5'8", then I don't mind Munster as a buy. But I don't necessarily see him as a must-buy this week. I know he did well last week, but I always feel like there's a potential for him to have an off game. He always seems, not an off game real life-wise, but SuperCoach-wise. Talakai, oh god, I kind of regret not going for Talakai. Again, he had a really great game against Melbourne, cracked a ton. At 592k, it kind of does feel like you've missed the boat a little bit. Just going to quickly check his break even as well. So let's see. He's got a break even of 18, so he will still make some money, and the Sharks do have a good draw as well. they've got Manly, Broncos, Warriors, and then it is Raiders, Titans, Roosters. It's a pretty good draw for the Sharks. He is looking very, very good. He was looking confident. It kind of reminds me a little bit like, is it IPAP? Like 2.0, a player who's come into the starting team. We're a little bit uncertain on is he going to continue in the starting role, and he just stays there and then absolutely kills it. It does feel a little bit late at 592k, but then you could say that, well, he could just be a season keeper and just continues it. So I don't mind him as a buy this week. I'll personally won't be getting him this week. Instead, what I'll hope for, fingers crossed, is that he has a couple of quiet games and maybe comes down in price. And then hopefully by then we also get some better certainty around the rotation in terms of if Wade Graham comes back, what does that then do with someone like Talakai. Tamalolo, I think I mentioned goodbye, as is Hastings. Swali's okay, but if it's to fund other moves, I don't mind it, as is Fifita. Isaiah Tass, I'm going to guess that was a pre-TLT one because he's not even named in the 17, I think, from memory. So there's no real need to be buying him. Like, he's essentially enough. So I'll have a quick look at team list just to double check that. So we got Rabbitohs. Yeah, Tass is in the extended reserves. So unless he gets in there on game day, there's no real kind of reason, I think, to be buying him. Okay, cool. So we'll quickly end up on captaincy. So captaincy for me this week is, look, there's a few good options, but with my planned trades, it's fairly straightforward for myself. So I'm probably going to do a VC on Nico Hines. At home to Manly, plays on the Thursday. And then and then Captain Cleary. At home to the Raiders, who leak a lot of points. Panthers at home. I think it's on a 21 game unbeaten stretch, which is insane. Don't really see that ending this week either. So for me, Cleary is probably the standout captain. I was thinking about Pappenhausen, who does play on the Monday against the Warriors, but because he does have this like lingering ankle issue, which we haven't even spoken about all stream yet. Look, I don't think Pappenhausen, if he's only out for 1 week, I don't think he's a sell. He has been named, so we're going to have to assume that he's going to play. But I think the fact that there's that lingering doubt with his ankle just means I'm probably not going to be as confident captaining him compared to a Cleary. So for me, Cleary is going to be the captain. I haven't shown it here because it hurts me to do it, but Tony Staggs could be a VC as well against the Bulldogs if you've got Tony Staggs. Fifita could be a great, more poddish vice captain because Hines is higher owned. You could even go for Cook, maybe even as a captain away to the West Tigers. And similar with the Moses, could be either a vice captain or a captain. But for me, captaincy feels pretty straightforward this week. If you get Cleary in this week, I think he is the standout captain. And I think it's the vice captain where you can have a bit more fun with it. You can put it on a Fifita, maybe even a Cook, maybe a Moses, maybe a Hines. Oh, sorry, you probably can't put on Moses. I just realized because they're both playing in the halfback spot. So you can't actually do the Moses vice captain. So ignore that. But yeah, Hines, Fifita, Cook, maybe a Staggs. Could all be decent options. Maybe you could do a vice captain Cleary, captain Pappenhausen or Grant, who played the last game. But I just don't think most people would have the right players to do the switches in that period of time. So for me, vice captain Hines, captain Cleary, that's probably how I'm going to go with it this week. Quick shout out to our group league. So Luke absolutely smashed it last week, 1,388. And he's gone up quite a lot to 8.7k. And the top 5 in our overall group league have done really well. So James is 13th overall. So shout out to James, absolutely smashing it. I'm seeing a few guys actually saying VC Talakai. Yeah, that's a good shout as well. If you don't have a Hines, you could go in a Talakai as well. If you've got the Hines and Cleary combo, you obviously can't do both VC and C there. So then, yeah, probably Talakai. I don't mind that as a shout either. Good call. And yeah, so shout out to Vaughn. Vaughn, is this Vaughn Moore who's been in the chat? Because if it is, let me know, because I wish I was 54th ranked overall. That'd be very tidy. But no, congrats to you. And then Louis, Joshua, and Finn, they're all in the top 150. So absolutely smashing it. League code is in the description below as well. Okay, cool. So that's it for my kind of plan stuff. What I'll get into though, I'll just get into a bit of a trade discussion. So this is what I'm thinking for my team at the moment. So I'll quickly discuss this and then we'll do some maybe 10 minutes of Q&A and then we'll probably end the stream there. So in terms of my team at the moment, yeah, I think Teddy's going to be sold. So I've got a bust on Pappenhausen at the moment, but he probably won't be my captain. I can see Shockmasters captaining Taylor May. Captain Taylor May. Oh, for me, I feel like Cleary, regardless of what the Panthers do, he's always going to be in there getting points because he goal kicks and things like that. Doesn't matter if it's the right winger, left winger, centre, hooker. Cleary's going to be involved in the points. So for me, he is the safe captain option. Taylor May is a punt. For me, I'm going Cleary. And I think someone asked in the chat earlier, do I think Cleary? I think something along the lines of, do I think Cleary's going to be heavily bought, or what I think his ownership's going to be? I think his ownership's going to be really high. Yeah, sorry, I found your question, Jai. How many people do you think will own Cleary by the end of this week? Well, we can actually have a quick look at that. So if you look at the traded ins, Cleary is 10%. I've already got him in, and he was on 7%. So his ownership, I reckon, is going to get to at least 20% by the end of this week. So he's gonna go up quite a bit in price. Sorry, not in price. Sorry, my bad. He's going to be heavily owned this week. Tyrone, you've got to what on Pappy? Oh, sorry, that's a fantasy Premier League term, bust. So in fantasy Premier League, when you set up your bust team, the reason it's called a bust team is because if you had, it's a bit grim, but it was if you got hit by a bus, you obviously can't change your team. So you set your team up as, say, if you didn't make any moves or any changes, this is how it would look. So that's what the bust term refers to. Anyway, so what I was thinking of doing with trades. So Teddy's gone. Teddy is probably going to go. So Teddy is going to go for probably Taff. I could maybe swap Hines down to fullback. But yeah, otherwise Teddy to Cleary. Easy as you like. Well, I need 206k. So Schneider's probably going to go out as well, regrettably, for Taff. Nothing here is that crazy. This is what a lot of people are doing. Now, I need to fund that by doing another move to free up 45k though. Now, if I look at my team, my centre wing I'm okay with. Cobbo got named in the wing again. Didn't get named to fullback. Tamar Martin got there instead. But Cobbo has done a bit better the last few weeks. I'm happy enough to hold him and play him this week. He's got the Bulldogs, so I'll probably play Cobbo this week, actually. And everyone else in my centre wing I'm okay with for now. Dillbags is fine. Cleary and Taff are fine. And I'd reserve Taff as well. And then in my forwards, so second row forwards a bit Fifita and Yo are fine. I'm happy with them. And then you and Aiken I'm fine with as well. I think he's definitely still a hold for me. He pumps out 50 to 55 each week, without any attacking stats, which for me at the moment is fine. He'll hold his value. So no major issues there. Front row forward is a bit weak as well, with Payne Haas, Ali, Max King, Josh King, and Leo Thompson. Now, ideally I would sell Josh King, I think, before Fermor. The problem is, at that price, I can't really afford anyone that I like Gilbert, all of these guys that did well, that named on the bench. Tarmel, I'm not going to go there. Maybe I need to think about it a bit more, but there's no real kind of cheapy mid-ranger front row forwards that interest me, and I don't have any dual players you will notice to actually swap him to bring in someone into front row forward to get in a second row forward. So that's the bummer with King. I can't do any moves there. So that's why instead I've thought about maybe just taking out Fermor instead. It's not ideal. I'd rather keep him. But I feel looking at the rest of my team, he's probably the biggest area to downgrade, I think. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. Now, we did speak about a few options. I could afford Lukey, but I mentioned there's maybe some risk there, so I'm not going to go there. I could go with a Brodie Jones, but I don't think Brodie Jones is going to be a real kind of money maker. So what I've thought about doing instead then is getting in Suwali. It means subbing up Targo to my second row forward, which is not ideal, and it does mean that Suwali then is a play in my team each week, which does feel a bit risky, but I'm okay I feel like I'm okay to take that gamble this week, just because the Roosters do still have good games coming up, and I think he is going to be the Roosters' number one choice. Now, I know it kind of goes against the rule as well of, don't bring in guys just before they're going up in price, bring them in week 3, not in week 2, but I prefer Suwali to Brodie Jones. I mentioned that earlier. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. It would be for a trade boost, and I've only got 28 trades, so I'll just complete the trades. I only have 28 trades left. I've been burning a lot of trades, and my team's not well set up, nor is it at a good ranking, which does scare me a little bit. But imagining I do those moves, Cleary captain, Nico Hines vice captain at fullback, play Pappenhausen, Cobbo, Blake, Taff and Aitken. I could even play Randall instead. I could play Josh King. So I would actually play Max King over Josh King. I feel like Max King is just so much better for PPM. So I prefer playing him instead. And it's the Broncos, so maybe he gets an attacking stat. Who knows? So that would be what I would do. And then I'll have 194k in the bank. So what that lets me do next week is I can take out Josh King. Say Josh King falls maybe 10k, maybe he's 450k. I should still be able to afford Josh King for Taumalolo. So that then strengthens up my front row forward. I would have Payne Haas, Taumalolo, and then Max King and Leo Thompson. So I have 2 set and forget front row forwards. Alternatively, what I could do is, that was the main thing I thought of. Or what I could do is even like a Chris Randall out for McInnes. I could even do both of those moves potentially, because Randall does have a break even of 2. So hypothetically, let's say if Chris Randall goes up to maybe say 400k, and let's say McInnes is about 490k. So I would need 90k there to fund that. So I'd have 100k left over of taking out Josh King. That might mean I'm just shy of getting Taumalolo, but if I could make that work, I would love to do those moves. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking for this week. Having 194k in the bank to then get in maybe even a double upgrade of McInnes and who was the other player? Taumalolo next week. That way then I've got 2 great hookers I'm happy with. I've got better coverage in front row forward. Second row forward's still a bit light, but I've got Cleary, I've got Hines, I've got Pappenhausen, I've got an okay centre wing at that point as well. So yeah, that's my trade thoughts at the moment. Joshua 299, throw the C on Jackson Perry for 1.2 mil in the bank. Mate, this is going to be the running joke of the stream, isn't it? 1.2 mil in the bank. The way that you guys are going, you're trying to put in 1.2 mil in my pocket. Honestly, it's insane. But no, honestly, I really appreciate it. But yeah, that's my trade thoughts for this week. It is a trade boost, but I think it does help me set up for next week as well. And I'm pretty confident in those moves actually. I'm pretty comfortable with that. So hopefully there's no kind of last minute tinkering. But yeah, we're on an hour 14. So I'm happy to take questions now as well for about the next 10 minutes. So fire in your questions and we'll go through that. And then I'll probably end the stream there. So yeah, I don't know if my stream's laggy or what, but I've noticed that the comments have not been coming in recently. I'm afraid to refresh my screen as well, just in case that stuffs up something as well. What I'll do for now, I'll scroll up and see. Okay, Alex, is Talakai getting the dual position to centre wing? He won't get it until at least round 12. That's when they do the next set of dual position changes. So Talakai wasn't given it, and so instead you have to wait till round 12. So again, that could be a good reason to even get him. He might get that dual status then. Yeah, okay, let's see. Should I trade Teddy for Taff, Coates for Swiley, and Ilias for Cleary? I love those moves, Jeremy. I know Coates is not ideal to sell, but Ilias for Cleary, I'd rather do Ilias to Cleary than Schneider. I just can't do it with my team set up. But no, I really like those moves, Jeremy. I'd be very confident with those. Rio, thinking Tedesco, Schneider, and Randall to Taff, Hines, and Cook. But I want to get in Cleary, however, I have Moses at my half, who I don't want to trade out for a couple of weeks. What's your thoughts? Tedesco, Schneider, and Randall to Taff, Hines, and Cook is good. But I do get what you're saying, where you don't have either Cleary or Hines. That's a tough one. I think I don't know who I'd prioritize over Hines or Cleary. That is a difficult one. I mean, Hines, look, he's been killing it so far this season as well. He's got a break even of 91, which he could clear. I think though that I feel like Cleary's just going to be that heavily captained this week that I would go Cleary instead. Yeah, I think I'd go Cleary instead. So I know you don't want to sell Moses, but if he's the one that has to make way, then I'd probably do it. But if you're happy to avoid him, then Taff, Hines, and Cook are 3 good upgrades as well. Sorry, I know it's not really a clear-cut answer, but that's a tough one. But yeah, I do prefer, I think, getting Cleary in over Hines. I think he's just, he's top. He's top dog. Is Ilias a reserve? Oh, sorry, my chat messed up. Is Ilias a reserve of a Max King and Tuilagi? No, I don't have confidence reserving Ilias anymore. He's just not, even in the good matchups, he's just not doing enough to get the points. Whereas Tuilagi at least is a forward. He can score 40 to 45, and Max King is a beast. Whenever he gets minutes, he's insane, the amount of work rate he gets through. So I'm happy to play Max King over both Ilias and Tuolagi. Tyron, you got Remus Smith at the start of the season. Should I boost to sell for Suwali, or should I wait till next round? Remus Smith, I haven't even thought about Remus Smith all season, in all honesty. Break even of 64, it's a good matchup. I mean, look, if you don't have to do it this week, if you're not having to fund other moves, you could maybe just hold it and wait for next week, just to avoid the risk of, say, if Suwali got injured, you're not stuck with him. Should you trade out Nanai or Josh King this week? That's from Nick. I would be trading out Nanai. I think he's still got a higher break-even of 58. So his break-even is lower. And yeah, he scored what? He scored 53 last week? He scored 53 with a try. That's not the kind of output I want. So yeah, I would be selling Nanai, I think. You've already lost some money. So I think I will just sell now to not lose much more. Whereas King, he still has a chance of making some money or at least holding some value, but he probably won't go down that much in price. So I would trade out Nanai over Josh King. Trade for Fifita or priority centre wing for future trades. Oh, it's a really tough one, I think, that one, because there's no centre wing really at Fifita's price tag. But I also don't think there's a centre who as reliably can get the points that Fifita can. So I do like getting in Fifita, but the thing with the centre wing is that if you're willing to pay up, you could go for a nice pod with that money. You could go for a Gagai. Now, Gagai, the Knights do have a tough draw coming up. But yeah, it's a hard question to answer, Carrot, without seeing the rest of your team. Yeah, it's a tough one. Because it depends. If your second row forward is really needing a gun, then just get in Fifita. If your second row forward's fine, but your centre wing's lacking, then maybe I'll just go with the centre wing instead. So yeah, that one, it's a bit difficult to answer that one, sorry. Dominic, you went Teddy, Wilton and Schneider to Cleary, Talakai and Taff. Trading in two keepers, in my opinion. Yeah, I like that. I think Wilton is fine to sell, even though he is named this week. You're getting in Cleary, you're getting in Talakai, who I do think it looks more and more like Talakai is going to be safe for minutes, the way that he's playing. So just to follow up answer Shock's question of am I too late on Talakai? I've kind of actually changed my thinking now. I don't actually think it's too late to get him. I just don't think I can get him this week. Maybe I can get him next week with that money that I've got. But yeah, with the draw coming up, the form that he's in, I don't actually think it's too late. I feel like it's actually safer to just take a punt on him. And if you have to take him out, you can. Versus if you don't go for him and he explodes in price and then you have to scramble to get him. I feel like the first way is a little bit more palatable. So yeah, no, I don't actually think it's too late for Talakai. Okay, let's see. There's a lot of questions, guys, so I don't think I'll be able to get to everyone. Should you bring in Lomax, Best, Yo, or Frizzell? I mean, they're all pretty different options. I mean, I have Yo, who I'm very happy with. I think now that you're in round 7, you kind of have to be a little bit conscious of Origin. Frizzell and Yo are good chances of being there. Lomax could be, but I don't think he'll make the Origin squad. I feel like Crichton is going to make it instead. Stephen Crichton, that is, in the left centre spot if Latrell is out. So, I mean, I think in terms of who's going to score the most points out of all of them, I'd probably say Yo. But he actually, you know what? I would get Yo. I've been really happy with Isaiah Yo. He's doing really well. The attacker stats are coming in. They still have a good couple of matches coming up as well. And he's going to be a pretty safe. His lowest score, I think, this season is 53. So he's really, really safe. So I would actually say get Isaiah Yo out of those. Edward, should you trade Brown for Cleary and get Cody Walker as well, or do the Tedesco Taff for Cleary? I'll do the Tedesco Taff for Cleary. If that's Dylan Brown, look, I know Dylan Brown has got a high break even. He's got 102. I don't think he's a sell. He's performing like a gun this season. 77 average, 70 last week. Cody Walker for me is still not a buy, even though he's got 102 break even as well. Nothing is screaming for me to buy Cody, and Brown is killing it. So I would definitely not be doing that one. I would instead be doing the Tedesco Taff one. Should I stay with Taff and wait for him to go up a bit or get Cleary right now? I have 800k in the bank. 800k in the bank, holy moly. You have Hines, Moses and Pappenhausen as your fullback and half. I wouldn't be taking out Taff for Cleary. Taff is going to make some money. I would just take out Moses. Like, if you've got that position of having that much money in the bank, like, you can do moves of, like, Cooler to, like, a gun centre wing and Tuolagi to a gun second row forward. I would just take out Moses for Cleary and then keep that money because Taff will make money. So I think, yeah, I'd be doing that instead. Cleary definitely a buy this week. Was thinking of upgrading back up Randall to Cook to partner Grant or bring in Dave Fifita. To me, Cleary, the reason I think he's so strongly a buy this week is because his break-even's relatively low at 81 and he's 900k. If he starts going up in price, I feel like it's going to be difficult to get him in later. And the thing is, his draw actually gets worse over the next few weeks. So I feel like now's the week to capitalize on still what he has 2 good games. He's got the Raiders and then he's got the Titans. Then it becomes the Eels, Melbourne, Roosters, Cowboys, and then he'll miss round 13 with Origin. So for me, this week is the week to get him because then you're going to get him at probably what you think is maybe one of the more cheap prices, crazy as it sounds. So that's the reason why I think with Cleary, I think he's definitely a buy this week if you can get it. You're finally getting both Hines and Cleary this week. Are you proud of me? I'm very proud of you. Great stuff. Getting both Hines and Cleary, that sounds great this week. What about reserve of Taff over Jackbird? Who do the Dragons have? They've got the Roosters. I think Taff with the goal kicking is pretty safe, so I'll probably get Taff actually, yeah. David, hope you're well, Aman. Let's go. Thanks, David, so much, and congrats again for how well you're doing this year. 209 overall rank. At least some of my viewers are doing well, even if I'm not. James, Max King or Taff for your final reserve? Ooh, that's a tough one because I'm playing both at the moment. I'd actually say Taff. I think the fact that he's got the Tigers and he's goal kicking just means I think he's got that little bit more upside of Max King. So I would probably actually go Taff over Max King, although I think that it's pretty close, but I think Taff just has that better potential for upside. So I'd probably stick with him. Famous, you had Cleary straight away and now everyone is getting him. Look, congrats to everyone who had Cleary already. He scored 151 last week, but you couldn't have been thinking that he was going to be a pod for too long. It's Nathan Cleary. Everyone knows how good he is. As soon as he did well and his price dropped a little bit, everyone was jumping on him. So congrats, you banked 150 points when no one else had him, but we all want some of the fun now. Okay, sorry, there's quite a few questions, guys. We'll go for 5 more minutes. We'll go to 10, and then I'm going to end the stream there. So we'll go to about an hour and a half. And guys, obviously, if you are enjoying the stream, if you're just tuning in, give the stream a like if you have enjoyed it. Man and Aiken for Suwali and Cam Murray. No, Man is probably a trade out, but I don't think Aiken is. I've been a very strong hold advocate for Aiken. I think he's punching out 50s. If you got him in your center wing as well, that's great. He's in my second row forward at the moment, which isn't ideal. But I don't think he's a sell. I think Aiken's still a hold. Max, Watson, Keary and Kennedy traded into Appy, Munster, Taff. I like the Munster and Taff, but Appy I'm not a big fan of. I think if you're going to trade a hooker, just try to get to Cook or Grant. So yeah, see what you can do with money. Otherwise, if you think about Appy, what's he priced at? 496. I would actually instead maybe just go early on McInnes instead of Appy. Max. So maybe think about that. Maybe just McInnes instead of Appy. I feel like he's a bit more safer. And he's got the dual flexibility, which should be nice. And he's probably a bit more of a pod as well. Jaden, thoughts on Moses, Josh King, and AFB out? Cleary, Lolo, and someone under 250k. Yeah, look, AFB has done pretty well the last few weeks, but I do think that if that's letting you fund Cleary and Lolo, I do think that Cleary and Lolo are 2 season keepers, the way that they're going at the moment. Josh King's not, he's peaked. Moses could be a season keeper, but you're getting a Cleary, which is better. And then someone under 250k, can you just about afford Swali? Otherwise, there's not too many options at that price. But yeah, otherwise I don't mind those 3 moves. Christian, Grant or Cook already have Pappy and Munster. So not sure whether having 3 Storm players in your spine is a good idea. This is a question that comes up every now and then about, should you overinvest in a certain team? The thing that you probably, I would generally say that I wouldn't worry too much about if you've got a lot of players from one of the gun teams, like the Storm, just because they are that good of a team. What I would say, though, is that there's a good chance that, there's a 100% chance that Munster and Grant will play for Queensland. Okay, Pappy is also maybe an option. So I feel like maybe if you think about it like that, well, actually that's stupid. Sorry, because Cook's going to play Origin for New South Wales. Forget about that. Ignore that. If you're buying one this week, I think if that extra money lets you do some other upgrades next week. So SC Whisperer also has this option of going Grant or Cook. He's going Cook because for him, it lets him have enough money to upgrade Coates next week. So I think if you think about it like that, Cook might be the better option. He does have the better draw. He's got a lower break even, so he probably is going to go up a bit more in value as well. And he's just looking a lot better. He's got the Tigers this week. So yeah, I would actually probably say Cook, even though I think overall Grant is the better option. I've locked in Grant. I'm happy with him. I'm not going to change him at all. But if I was buying one of the two, I'd probably go Cook the way that he's going at the moment. I can't join you with trading Teddy. He is overdue and should get more points than Taff. Look, he probably will get more points than Taff, but the overdue, I don't want to buy into the whole gambler's fallacy thing about, he's done poorly, he's due. Look, I think everyone knows selling Tedesco is still a bit of a risk. If I could get Cleary another way easily, I would. But for me, he's the most obvious one to sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think for me, that's probably what I have to do. James, obviously you need a couple of hours sometimes to do this, but if you'd like midway through the year, I'd love if you maybe did a quick mid-of-season fan teams review. Yeah, I think mid of the year, we'll have a bit more free time. I guess there'll be less games to cover. So what I probably have thought about maybe doing is taking a look at some of the teams up the top in the rankings. So not necessarily fan teams, but teams that have done really well to begin the year. What are the things that they've done? Is there any trends that we can pick out? So that's something I have thought about doing previously. So that it's not quite what you suggested, but something similar to that I have thought about doing as well. Edward, thanks mate, love your work, appreciate it. Should you trade TPJ, Tyler? No, I feel like if you've got TPJ, I would just be holding him. I know he didn't do so well last week. I was even contemplating him for a little bit as well. I would just be holding. The Bulldogs don't have a bad draw coming up as well. He should be fine. He'll actually cover round 13. I don't think he'll play Origin. So, yeah. I would actually hold TPJ. Keen on Xavier Savage? Nah, not really. Playing on the wing. He won't get dual status until round 12 if he keeps that spot. So for me, I'm not too keen on Savage at the moment. Okay, a couple more questions, guys. It's hit 10 o'clock and then we'll probably end up soon. Ryan, Paps or Cleary with the C this week? I'm going with Cleary. I think there's just a bit of a risk with Pappenhausen and his ankle. Last time we had issues with Pappenhausen's foot. He wasn't goal kicking. That might happen again this week. So I think Cleary's a bit more of a safer bet. So I'm going with Cleary, captain. Let's see. What would you say if I'm going to trade out Paps and Teddy? Cleary and Sam Walker coming in. Yes to Teddy to Cleary, no to Paps. No, for me, Paps is a whole. Like, there's no reason for me to sell Paps. So what would I say? I like half of that move. And it's not the Pappenhausen out one. Put it that way. Sandy, would love a stream about how to prepare for Origin. Yeah, we'll definitely do some more content on how to prepare for Origin. I've actually already started prepping something for looking at the draw for round 7 to 13, and we'll look at Origin as well. Alright guys, I think I'm going to end it there. Voice is starting to go. Got to sleep soon for work as well tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know this stream has been insane. $95 of donations, which is like, I still can't really process that, to be honest. You guys have been insanely generous. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks for sticking with me while I ducked out to tend to my dog. So yeah, I did promise you guys a poem, Nathan Cleary poem this week, with the dog. So do follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Aman Talks NRL SuperCoach, or is it Aman Talks NRL SC? Yeah, it's at Aman Talks NRL SC. Follow me there. I'll post my video of my poem there, maybe tonight in the next half hour. So stay tuned for that if you're into poems and if you want to see my dog who I had to tend to when the storm came through. But yeah, that's the content for the round 7 preview. Thanks again everyone so much. Like honestly, this was a ridiculous stream. Really, really appreciate it. But yeah, Gonna end the stream there. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in. Good luck for round 7. See you all in the next one.